guide you through the housing process in Paris. Um, Basically, a lot of our students at Paris College of Art choose to get a studio apartment when they first come here. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, great. And once you get accepted, you basically get this little guide that I've made called the PCA Housing Guide. And it lists all sorts of different types of housing. So typically our students, they find a studio flat for at least the first semester so that they could, you know, get their feet on the ground, learn about Paris and get to know the neighborhood a little bit more. And but other sorts of housing that our students have lodged in the past have been student residences. Now, PCA, we don't have student residences on the campus itself because Paris is so small, but there are two big housing providers in Paris where it's just students living in one, it's student dormitories, but for all sorts of different students in Paris. We've also had students, once students get accepted and they deposit and they are sure to come here, we ask them to join the closed PCA Facebook group that is only for current and incoming students. So they find housemates through that. We also have students who do homestays, especially the younger students who, you know, want to see what it's like to live with a French family and get their French up to speed. They do choose to do a homestay option. And actually a lot of our study abroad students choose to do that too, because it helps them get their French up to speed. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about the different types of housing we have in Paris? No? Okay. Next, I wanted to talk about the average price. So typically you're looking to spend anything between 700 to 1,000 euros a month. That's not including bills, which could be another additional 100 euros a month. It really depends on what area you're living in, what kind of a building it is, whether it's a new building or an old building. It also depends obviously on the size of your apartment, but one good thing about France is that the French government does offer housing aid to any students, whether you're from EU, whether you're French, whether you're from non-EU countries. 1 year or more students are eligible to apply for this. And it's called CAF, C-A-F. And basically you apply for it once you find housing, and you can get up to 200 euros per month as a housing aid to help offset living expenses. So a lot of our students do apply to this so that they can find decent accommodation here in Paris. Yeah, and I also like to remind everyone that Paris is a very, very compact city. So anything you find housing-wise, you may expect to find something smaller than what you're used to, depending on where you come from. So be prepared with that. Yeah. And also regarding finding housing, we're partnered. Once you get accepted, we'll send you a PCA housing guide, and it lists all our partnered agencies. Now, what that means is that you get a discount on the finder's fee. They're used to dealing with international students, so you don't need. If you have an international guarantor, they have no problem accepting that. Voilà. And then another big question I get is what kind of platforms can I use that don't include agency fees? This is a little bit tricky because in France they do require a lot of individual French landlords through sites like PAP, .fr. It's basically a subletting platform, but you do need a French guarantor, someone who works in France, someone who has a bank account in France. So if you have that, that is a good place to start searching. Is anyone French here or has French guarantors? No. Okay, so I would typically say that it's something you can look into once you're settled here, and maybe you get a job or someone who's French who can vouch for you, basically. So a lot of our students just go through the international housing agents that we provide, and you get anything from 10 to 20% off finder's fee, and finder's fee should be no more than 1 month's rent. So if anyone's trying to charge you more, then I'd say don't pay for it. Another thing that we do have, though, is individual landlords who are used to dealing with international students, and what they do is they email me directly with offers, and then I post them on the mon.paris.edu student portal. Have you guys been on that site? Yeah. So under that, in the student life section, we have a section called housing, and there we have a little forum called Housing Forum, and I post individual landlord offers there, and that typically has no finder's fee, or the finder's fee is really, really low. So yeah. Also, once you get accepted and you deposit, in the Facebook group, I post apartment listings as well from individual landlords. Yeah. Another question we typically get is, what is a good neighborhood? What is a bad neighborhood? Especially people who've never been to Paris before or have only been here briefly. I'd say, like any major big city, there is no good or bad. Of course, there's dodgy areas. For example, it's listed in the housing guide, like anywhere that there's a big entry into and out of Paris. We don't typically recommend students to stay in those kind of areas. I mean, I don't know where you guys all come from, but if you've ever lived in a big city, it's basically, in Paris, it's so small, you don't really have, oh, we should avoid this area. Everything is residential, everything is commercial, everything's mashed up into one. The only comparison I can have is, like, for example, in London, you've got like a big residential neighborhood, and then a borough, an area, and then you have like maybe 20 minutes walk of like industrial buildings and stuff. Paris is not like that at all. It's compact, and it's quite small. So yeah. Do you guys have any questions about neighborhoods?
Not right now.
Okay, great. You should also really look into what the leave-in conditions are for your apartments, especially if it's furnished or non-furnished. Some landlords would need you to give at least 1 month's notice before your contract ends, whether you want to renew it or leave it altogether. For others, it's 3 months. So you should really look into that. And in the PCA Housing Guide, we have a checklist. And you should really go through that thoroughly before you sign any document or lease. Do you guys all have the housing guide? Have you been able to download it? Okay, great. Yeah. Do you have any questions about that at all? Okay. Have you guys started looking for housing?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. And what do you have any main concerns or anything about it?
Not right this second. I mean, I guess I'm still looking. I'm kind of looking to get like a roommate, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Another good platform to look for a flatmate is Appartager. It's listed in the housing guide. It's typically with you can choose the range of age of people you want to live in with. And some of our students have taken advantage of that just because they want to get their French good and whatnot. But also, you know, the PCA closed Facebook group is a good place to find housemates as well. And the benefit of living with other people is that you get a much bigger place for cheaper. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for.
yeah, I live with 2 other people, and it's just yeah, it's just a lot cheaper. But I also understand it's really hard to know whether you want to live with someone without like actually meeting them or knowing what their lifestyle is. So that's why I said that a lot of our students do just get a studio flat, well, at least for the first semester. And then once they like know people here, meet people here, and feel more comfortable with the neighborhoods and where they want to live, they make a permanent decision for a long-term rental. Yeah.
Well, I'm only going to be there 2, I guess, at least for the masters.
For but that's still a long time. You know, some of our students are only here for a semester because they're study abroad. Do we have any study abroad students here? No. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? No? Have you encountered any problems at all? Have you reached out to any of our partners?
I reached out to a few partners. I can't remember which ones it was exactly. They gave me a few lists of houses.
Okay, great. That's great. Do you remember which one you went with? Which
I can't remember. It was one of the top ones.
Okay. Yeah. So it was pretty easy for you with our partnered agencies.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wow. All right. Well, let me just check that I've gone through everything. Yeah, I mean, I think the main questions that I get from parents and students is what neighborhood they should live in. And a good platform to research neighborhoods is theguardian.com. It's an English news. It's a newspaper, and online they do quite a thorough description of the Parisian neighborhoods. So yeah. And I guess it really depends on what lifestyle you have and what kind of environment you want to live in. For example, I live in the Marais, in the gay and Jewish area, because it's lively. It's got contemporary art galleries, and I like the atmosphere there. But some students, they want to be in a more quiet residential neighborhood, like the 15th, and others want to be in a more bustling and young neighborhood where everything's happening, like Bastille, the Bastille area, the 11th. So it really, really depends on what your lifestyle is and what kind of environment you want to be surrounded in. So yeah. All right, well, that's basically it from me. Do you guys have, if you have any other questions, you've all got my email, right?
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you for joining me. And have a good day. And don't hesitate to email me.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.